Well done, Chris, and grabbing our next guest from the Sports Business Journal. He writes about the NBA, but has been really on top of the saga, I guess you could call it, with TNT, the rights, Warner Brothers, NBC, all of his drama off the court. As a lot of players will say, this league never fails to disappoint. Tom Friend joins us right now to kind of give us some clarity as much as he can. Tom, it's Dave. Thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing good. My Kings aren't in the playoffs, but that's semi-normal. But
they're an upcoming team around the league. Everybody knows about the Kings. They could be the next Timberwolves. We'll see.
Well, see, and already Tom establishing his credibility in this market, and we appreciate that. You have been on top, and I've really enjoyed your writing on what's going on with Warner Brothers, the NBA, TNT, their parent, Warner Brothers, and NBC, Amazon. Do you get the same feeling that most of us do based on leaks, your reporting, other reporting, that is it a foregone conclusion yet? Can we say pretty confidently that all signs point to next year being the final year for TNT's coverage and inside the NBA as we know it?
Yes. Yeah, it's I would say it's pretty far down the road. I mean, look, they're going to try a Hail Mary here. I mean, what's going to happen is NBC is going to make their bid formal. In other words, it'll be written, lawyered up, approved by the board at NBC, not the leadership group at NBC. And at that point, in the next, I'd say probably now, my gut now is they'll let TNT finish their production of the Western Conference Finals. In other words, as soon as TNT's season is over, then everything will get more public. But my sense is at that point, they'll bring NBC's deal to Turner. Can you match this? You ever seen these poison pills and these deals they make for free agents so a team can't match a deal? That's what basically NBC's doing. They're going to propose a deal that Turner can't match. In other words, Sunday night basketball, basketball night in America on a Sunday night. There's no window that Turner has on over-the-air. That Turner has over-the-air TV, free TV, like an ABC, NBC, where they can do that. They can't match that, and the ad revenue that can come from that, and the eyes and everything else. Those are the things that NBC is going to say, can you match this? And Turner has no way to match it. They're a cable, they're a cable station.
Yeah.
So there's just the way it's structured. It's not a money, dollar for dollar deal. It has to be matched overall total value. And that's how the NBA sees it. Now, Turner believes they can match it just dollar for dollar. So that's where the lawyers may come, this may go to court. It depends how far Turner wants to push it. But that's really why it seems like it's over. I mean, Turner's biggest mistake was letting this get in the open market where NBC could do this.
If that was their biggest mistake, Tom, and I've seen you report on this, was their second biggest mistake having Warner Brothers Discovery CEO's David Zaslav, his comments back in 2022, quote, "We don't have to have the NBA." And the reports are that irked Adam Silver, and he has a long memory. What do you make of those? Is that over-reported, or do you think there's smoke to that fire?
There's smoke to it.
Yeah.
And it's not just Adam Silver. It's the people who negotiate with WBD. There's other people who are in the room. Adam's not necessarily in the room every day. And there are people like Bill Koenig. There's people that are involved in this negotiation. The relationship has to be good. And from what I'm told, people who are with intimate knowledge of this, is that the tone was set. And what happened was this exclusive negotiating window for the incumbents, that would be Disney and WBD, was March 13th through April 22nd. ESPN went into that window saying, we're going to get a deal. We're not going to let this thing get out in the open market. And they basically came close to doubling their previous deal, which was 1.4 a year over 10 years. Now it's going to be close to 2.8, 2.7, 2.6. We're in the gray area there because there's WNBA involved. There's WNBA involved and all that international. But Turner didn't want to double their deal. Zaslav didn't make this like the ultimate priority. And so by doing that and by sort of letting it get out in the open market, having this acrimony, having this indifference, this sort of pompousness there, that just created this. And you saw Charles Barkley go on Dan Patrick's show and basically say that, they're a bunch of clowns. He's calling his own bosses, Zaslav clowns, now. That's how it's gotten. So, it's really their fault. Maybe financially they could never do it. I mean, the company WBD is worth $18 billion. They're $40 billion in debt. And can you handle a deal that's $2.5, $2.6 billion a year? I'm not sure they can handle it. So that's why you see them go out and get the college football playoffs to sort of keep themselves in the sports business, but they can't afford the NBA.
David Zaslav is the CEO and president of Warner Brothers Discovery. It always seems like there's somebody above anyone. And I'm just asking you to kind of go philosophical with me for a second. Is there a chance that you see a realistic, could it come down to somebody stepping in last minute and moving him off of this, basically doing a backroom apology, getting him out of there and just kind of overruling that and keeping it? Or is it just simply, even if they wanted to, like you just kind of said, they don't have the money and they've lost their home court advantage?
Well, here's the thing. They're not going to move him out. Okay. I don't think they're going to move him out. That's not going to happen. But that's a good question, because I do believe, and this is from talking to people with very clear knowledge of Turner and WBD, that at some point Zaslav's going to go crazy and overbid. That's what people close to them still think he's going to do. That he's going to go out there and somehow, some way overbid and doesn't want to be the person to wake up one morning and say, I'm the one who cost TNT, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Shaq, that whole thing. They just, maybe he, in the end, he just can't fathom doing that, having that on his, epitaph. So at that point, he overpays. That's the only scenario that I've been told that Turner has a shot at this. Just pay $2.7 billion for a smaller package than you have now, because Amazon's going to get some of this. This is going to be broken up. And so you're going to have a less package that you had before. You're not going to have certain things, and yet you would have to pay more. If he wanted to swallow his pride and do that, that's the only way, right? That's the only way this can be salvaged. And, listen, TNT's show Inside the NBA, you can see the reactions now that people think it's over with after next year. It's like, people are just macabre about it. And it is maybe the greatest studio show ever, up there with NFL Today. I would argue it's as good, probably better. And so, that's going to show up somewhere. Whether Ernie does it, that's the whole problem.
Right.
Ernie does not want to leave Atlanta, and they'd have to get creative on it. But it would take a Hail Mary by Zaslav to do this. Just overpay, just completely overpay.
So Tom Friend of the Sports Business Journal joining us, and not to get too nerdy on this, but screw it. Zaslav has a responsibility to nobody else, to a shareholder. So again, I'm asking you just to philosophize with me here, but WBD, which is the symbol for their stock, it's down 68% over the last 5 years. It's down 33.5% over the last year. It's down 28% over the last 6 months. Now, whether or not we want to speculate that's in part or completely due to the TNT situation, at least over the last few months, that's a separate topic. I guess my question for you is, Zaslav's he's got to answer to shareholders, and they got to look and say, well, hold on a second. Your mouth got ahead of you, and now you're going to go overbid when we're in this type of debt and our stock's in kind of a free fall. Is there a chance in your mind he maybe tries to save his own face but gets hamstrung by his bosses?
Well, I think that's clearly in play, right?
Yeah.
Listen, this is related to what's happened with the NBA. As soon as the NBA, it looked like NBC was going to swoop in and take this package, the B package they call it.
Yeah.
Then their stock went way down. Everything, it went way down that day. So this is not a coincidence. It is a huge part of it. Obviously, their deal to get the college football playoff to share with the early round games with ESPN. That's what Charles Barkley, himself goes on the air yesterday. Goes and says, well, why wouldn't you save that money for the NBA? So clearly, they have a strategy.
Yep.
To keep themselves relevant in sports. They still have the NHL, they still have MLB. They're still a Turner Sports, but it's not going to have the punch that it had before. The thing is, I've seen reported lately. The other day, I saw reported that perhaps the way that TNT can match NBC is to partner with, say, a Fox or someone else to create broadcast windows to say, hey, we can do the same windows that NBC can do. We can match their offer. And, you know, I don't know if that's true. That's just something that's been put out there by other people. I haven't really firmed that up, but they're going to have to get creative. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Sure.
To match this, you know, and
yeah.
The money, I'm not sure they could do the money. I mean, it's still other thing, right?
Right. Tom Friend joining us, Sports Business Journal. Since it is business, look, I love Inside the NBA. I think it's maybe the best studio show ever. That opinion is shared by most. The popularity of this show is immense. That being said, Tom, in your opinion, your knowledge, there's popularity on Twitter, there's popularity word of mouth, but from a straight up revenue standpoint, and we're factoring in, you know, Ernie, Kenny, Charles, Shaq, the salaries, everything. You know, it's one thing to people are more upset about Inside the NBA leaving TNT than basketball leaving TNT. That product's going to remain the same. Does Inside the NBA have the type of revenue, in your opinion, the revenue effect to really put them in a spot where, you know, they're not saying, well, yeah, everyone loves the show, but let's be honest, it's revenue positive. It ain't that revenue positive.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had someone who very close to the Turner situation tell me that, look, Seinfeld ended, MASH ended, you know, all these shows ended, life went on. They didn't cure cancer. That was the quote.
Right.
Talking about Inside the NBA, the show. You know, can the world live without it? Sure. The reason why the show is worth money and valuable, and listen, the Turner people will talk about that left and right. I've had someone from Turner tell me, you know, how could the NBA let this show leave? Because they're worried about it. The thing about that show is that they're themselves on that show. They're self-deprecating. They're just themselves. You know, the guys at ESPN aren't themselves. They try to be know-it-alls. Even they just try to be know-it-alls. They're non-athletes trying to be know-it-alls, and it turns you off. Whereas the Shaq, the Kenny, and Charles, and then Ernie, just so self-deprecating, so genuine, and that's what makes the show special. I'm telling you, Amazon, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't know anything, but they're the ones that seem like the natural fit to take this show, as much of the show they can take. Because if you look at Amazon Thursday Night Football, what happens, right? They have the huge pregame lead into that game, right? It's like an hour or something long. And then they have the postgame. And that's what makes TNT Inside the NBA and it's so great. You have that postgame. I mean, you can screw the game. I'm going to watch the postgame.
Right.
I get everything I need there. And so if Amazon has that, they can really milk it and make that the Amazon NBA is basically all around that. And that can make it work for them. I'm not sure they would do that. I'm not sure they can do that. Do they want to move their studio to create a studio in Atlanta so Ernie could do it? Because Ernie's not leaving Atlanta. But, you know, he doesn't want to go to Connecticut for NBC or wherever it is, wherever NBC does it in New Jersey, you know, whatever they do their show. I mean, he might, but my point is that to me, Amazon makes a lot of sense. But NBC has a relationship with Charles. I mean, Mark Lazarus, who basically runs NBC Sports, was at Turner with Charles, was there when Charles was hired. So there's relationships there. This show is going to continue. People are not going to lose Charles Barkley. He's going to be there. Shaq is so much going on in his business. Shaq is president of Reebok basketball. Shaq has a studio. Shaq has 50,000 commercials. Kenny, there's people who think Kenny's going to go to some NBA front office.
Yeah.
So there's life for these guys after it. You know, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, sure, we'd love to have it, right? I mean,
well,
I watch it. Yeah.
Let me finish the way I love to, which is with a really stupid question. And
stupid answers.
It just occurred to me, you know, while you were talking, you know, we're talking about two different things here that are intertwined: the value of the NBA to TNT and the value of Inside the NBA, not just to TNT, but to the public. The game is the same no matter what channel it's watched on. The announcers switch, but the game's the same. It's transferable. Inside the NBA, because Ernie Johnson, as you mentioned, won't leave Turner, won't leave Atlanta, it's not transferable. So let me ask you this, Tom. If I'm the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, and I'm not, I'd be a lot richer, but if I am, why am I not considering the idea of saying, well, hold on a second. Where does it say we have to have the rights to the NBA to have Inside the NBA? In other words, why would they not just, let's say it goes to NBC or Amazon, whatever. Game ends, and on TNT, here's Ernie, Kenny, and Charles. They've got highlights just like SportsCenter would. They've got highlights just like your local TV would and other national shows. The only thing I'm thinking of right now on the fly that they would miss would be the on-court post-game interviews, which is a big deal, but I don't think there's anything preventing TNT from having a producer out there and getting somebody on outside the locker room. So I guess my question is this: why wouldn't they, if they're in a corner and they can't get the rights, if the show's so profitable, if the show's so important, why wouldn't they just save the $2.7 billion or whatever the NBA and keeping the NBA rights and continue to have Inside the NBA? Just screw the other networks. You watch the game on Amazon. Now everyone's hitting one button on the remote and going to TNT to watch Inside the NBA.
How come you aren't the CEO of WD, dude?
I'm telling you, I just saved the shareholders $3 billion.
Let me tell you something. There's precedent there. Think of NFL primetime on ESPN.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, NFL games ended on a Sunday. Where'd you go? You went right over there for the highlights, right?
That's right.
It changed when NBC got Sunday night football night in America. Then you wanted to go there. They had the better highlights. But up until that point, they did that's the exact same thing. So yeah, why not? Now I don't think does Charles want to do that. They'd have to pay out I don't know if they could make it work for these guys. Those guys wanted to do it, but yeah. I mean, why not?
Well, Tom,
that would create value. It would create value for the network and
save them a lot of money.
Yep, and they still have people would still have their show. I just don't. We'll see.
Well, I expect
it's all going to hit the fan here in the next 10 days. As soon as the Western Conference Finals are over, I expect that this will start. By game one of the NBA Finals, I think this is done. But we'll see. Maybe not.
Well, I expect your next article to be about this idea, and then I expect you and I to go to Warner and ask for a finder's fee. I would say $100 million, 50-50. I think that's fair. You and me split it, and we'll both.
Oh, no, it's all yours, man. It's all yours.
Hey, look, if we get it together, I'm giving you credit at least. Oh, you know what? I think that's legally binding. So we'll figure it out one way or the other. My new friend, Tom Friend, joining us right now, doing wonderful, wonderful work for Sports Business Journal. Brother, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, what to watch, we'll finish up streaking before we get Celebrity Birthdays Friday, Fun and Games.